So, now what was Granddad Burns' name? Nevin. Oh, really? So that's where Uncle Nevin got his name.
That's where Nevin got his name.
Okay, Nevin, and what was Grandma's name then?
Lily, I believe.
Lily. And then Granddad and Grandma Langston,
well, his name was John. I know that.
and where's he buried?
At Blue Mountain, I guess. Blue Mountain.
Okay.
And Grandma too. My granddad, I was his choice. I thought I was.
That's a good granddad that makes you feel like you're the special one anyway.
And he'd come over there.
Yeah.
They had an old cow. They had a bell on and she'd come to our cows, every night. Granddad had to come out. And every time he'd come over there, we'd play tag.
You and Granddad?
Yeah, and he'd hit me and run. I'd get him back, and I'd follow him halfway home, tagging him. He always did.
Was did he, Granddad was tall, our granddad, your dad was tall and lean. Was his dad that way too?
No, he was a small man.
Really?
Yeah.
And what about Grandma Langston?
She was a little small. She's a little fleshy, but she was short.
I wonder where Granddad got his height.
I don't know.
Because he was at least 6 foot tall, wasn't he? Don't you remember Granddad?
Yeah, he was tall. I'd say close to 6 foot.
Yeah.
The pictures that I see it, family 4 or 5 generations back, tall.
Huh.
And her name was Missouri.
Yeah.
Missouri Forest.
Carolina.
Well, there was a Missouri.
Missouri Forest, or Missouri
Carolina.
Forest.
And I don't know where it came from, but I always just got it. It's from down south.
I heard it was Tennessee. For a long time, it seemed like I heard that.
Well, it probably was.
That,
I don't know.
Well, now one of Granddad's brothers was killed then.
Well, it probably was. Now, I had an uncle that was killed in the war. Uncle Albert. No, I didn't either. I didn't either. That was wrong.
But Dale, don't you remember hearing a story about when they were coming up? One of Granddad's brothers was killed.
Well, one of them was killed. He was a freight hauler. Up the old freight from St. Louis and back and forth.
Well, was that one of Granddad's brothers?
Rebel from,
I know Uncle Albert
Wondershare
had a
Filmora.
brother. They were twins, and one of them, I think, died.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, there was something in that book that Langston from Coffville wrote about one of, and I think it was one of Granddad's brothers, and it was a mysterious
Dad.
thing. On one of them, they never knew what happened to him.
That's what I'm thinking of.
Or did he just disappear?
Well, who was the one that his house caught on fire? Was that Granddad's brother, the one that was crippled? And he lived at West Plains.
Oh, that was Aunt Myrtle's boy.
Okay,
Yeah.
that one, okay.
That, Aunt Myrtle, yeah, Aunt Myrtle had Edmonds, wasn't that his last name?
Yeah, that was his name.
And she had that daughter that was Geneva, and then, but she had that real thin girl that had diabetes so bad.
Oh, that was,
Liala's girl, or?
no, that was, Eloise's daughter.
Eloise's daughter. She died young.
Yeah.
I remember, she was like 14 and her little legs
Yeah.
like sticks. I've, at this point, got a pretty good memory.
I can't say that I have.
Well, you do. And I do remember some of the stories that Daddy told, and Grandma. And of course, I can remember being a kid at Mother's at Grandma and Granddad's, and I can remember a lot of the people that at Pottersville, you know, the older people.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you know, if something should happen that we couldn't, then that part of our history's gone.
Yeah.
You know, and there's just, I can remember a lot of the stories Daddy told about home and about Granddad and Grandma. And I can remember him talking about how hard Grandma worked, you know.
They both worked.
Oh, I know they did. But didn't Grandma used to, did she wash for that hotel, or did they run that hotel?
They run the hotel.
So
I don't remember anything about her washing there.
Daddy
But
used to,
she took in washings from a neighbor who we lived on the farm.
and wasn't she a wet nurse for someone that lost, the mother died, and didn't Grandma, I thought Grandma said she was nursing Buck, and she nursed that baby too, because, you don't remember that? What else, girls, can you think of that?
What are some of the ornery things you all used to do on Halloween?
Oh my gosh.
Turn over. Babies. I never did do anything like
No,
that. I know everybody got up one morning and he started a fire. The time I got in the kitchen, it was smoking. Well, I guess Buck was in the part of it too. Anyway, they stuffed a tow sack down the chimney. Where the smoke couldn't get out.
I know Buck and Opal came home one time, and they had got a sack of chicken feed, spread it out on her kitchen table, and put a bunch of chickens in there on her
Oh,
table.
what a mess.
And I can remember us coming home one time, and they'd taken all of our beds down. They were all down.
Oh, I remember that. It was late. We'd been in
Yeah.
town trick-or-treating or something. We came home, every one of our beds was out on the front porch.
Yeah, and
Taking a fall.
and then one time we were sitting there on Halloween, and our lights went out, and Daddy hollered, "Herman, right?" And he had pulled our meter out, and Daddy had to go up there and get it. And then another time we went to Kansas, and when we came home, out on that big tree that just blew over on the house down there the other day. But there was a sign, for sale, farm for sale. And we'd been gone, you know, and they come down there and put a for sale sign up there.
Herman was about 6'3".
No, Herman was short.
Winston was
Winston was tall.
Yeah.
Now, Winston was pretty ornery too.
Yeah.
Herman and Winston.
Oh, Herman and Winston, and even Clyde Stewart was in on it a lot of times.
Oh,
You know.
there's a gang of us.
There was a gang.
And the women, you know, didn't think it was funny.
No.
I mean, my goodness, you come home and
I remember coming home and there in that new house we had built, and the garden hose was tied across the carport, you know, wrapped around the poles and then tied around where you couldn't get in the carport.
Yeah.
Things turned upside down. And
Daddy used to bring those scraps of rubber from the shoe factory to start wood fires, to start our fires with. And he'd bring it home in sacks. And I remember we came home and it was in every room, on every piece of furniture, just all over, everywhere. You know, nobody locked their houses.
No.
And Mom didn't think it was funny at all, you know.
Well, they all, the Wrights and Dad and Buck and Wayne, they all used to, if their cats had a litter or they had pups or dogs or strays, they would take them and dump them out close
At
to
their
the
house.
Yeah, close to the house where they'd go to somebody else's house, you know. And here, some morning you'd wake up and have a whole bunch of kittens and cats and dogs.
was sure entertainment for the men.
Yeah, the men really had got a good laugh out of it.
Yeah, I wonder who got to clean all the chicken poop off the kitchen.
Oh, but I know Opal wasn't happy about it. You know, they just used to do, I mean, nobody locked anything. And everybody felt free just to go in somebody's house and just
Not get shot.
do whatever you wanted to do.
Yeah.
But they'd do anything on earth for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody helped.
You're talking about honoring, Mom, you might tell them what Buck did to your finger with the hatchet.
Well, we was that big old tree and,
How old were you?
well, I guess about 8
Buck would have been,
6.
Buck would have been,
Oh, he's older than that. He was about, maybe I was 10 and he about 8, I guess. We was standing out there in the yard. We had a swing, you know, water swing. It had a round ring and the bottom
An inner
was
tube.
swing on that. So, well, anyway, we was out there with that tree and Buck had a hatchet. And I put my hand up just on the tree. And he said, if you don't get your hand down, I'll cut your finger off. I
Would
took
they?
that there, I just stuck her up there. And he just barely hit my fingernail, my thumbnail. Oh, it bled, and it, I just tearing in the
Oh, of
house.
course you did.
Tell Mama.
So wonder you didn't lose
So
a hand.
what did Mama do?
I don't remember. I think she kind of
Switched it?
bought him out or switched him away, but
Well, what about when Buck got his eye put out?
that part.
When Buck got his eye put out?
Well, now they were getting wood out in the woods, and Wayne and all of us, maybe he was making ties at the, I don't know, anyway, he was skinning. Anyway, a chip
Just hit him in the eye.
and hit him in the eye.
How old was Buck then?
Oh, he was about 12. And one time I was, Pop had a wagon, you know, and it had slats instead of just a regular wagon. And he'd back his wagon in the pond to swell up to keep the tar from slipping off him. Well, I always said him I wanted to ride in the wagon with you. Well, them boards was slipping, you know, when he had a steep bunch and they went slipping. Well, I got out. I slipped out. I got under the back end of that, and he had a team of mules, and they were backing right over me, and I kept trying to.
And Granddad didn't know you were.
No. And Grandpa Burns went to hollering at him and to get him to stop him. But I was getting under that wagon, just barely. That scared me.
Well, I would think so.
I never went down the pond.
Never did want to go with it. I can remember Grandma's cellars, the fruit cellars, and I can remember those big old black things that she made apple butter in.
Oh, yeah. It's a kettle.
Kettle,
Black
big,
kettle.
big old black kettle. Oh, I can remember the smell of that apple
It's always
butter.
on the move, isn't she?
And I'll tell you another little mean trick that Dale done, but of course he
Oh.
didn't.
now we're talking about you and your years, not me.
He was about, oh, he was about 5 or 6, or maybe not quite, no, about 4, yeah. And we lived at Bakersfield. We'd come up over the weekend, and he had to take, we had a little lamb, you know, and it was a little orphan lamb. And that lamb, he'd followed Dale every place he went. And Dale,
I'm kind of all animals.
he had to take it up there at the farm. Well, the boys all went to play croquet one Sunday down at the croquet yard. And Dale stayed with me. And after a while, I missed Dale. I couldn't find him.
Probably took
And I
several
called,
days.
Yeah.
and
I went home for a week, come back that
I
next
went
week.
down
and
to
then-
Pond, and I could imagine, what he's in Pond, but I didn't. So I ran down to the croquet ground to tell Hayward. I couldn't find Dale no place. And they come up, well, that little stinker went down in the cellar and hid behind the door with that lamb, never said a word.
I think I was really locked down there. I think they locked me down there.
And
It was when the welfare people came out.
Right.
But they missed you.
but that was
Oh, that's
a mean
scary-
trick.
scary.
I had to run a half a mile, I guess it was, to the croquet ground.
Oh, I remember the days of croquet. I remember the Sunday afternoons when the whole family would come
Yeah.
and play croquet out in Granddad's front yard or down at ours or wherever.
And horseshoes, I remember.
The horseshoes.
I remember Daddy, we had all woods across the road from the house at Pottersville, and Daddy cleared out enough that he made a little horseshoe throwing area down there. And I remember the men on Sunday afternoon, a bunch of those men around there coming down throwing horseshoes.
I can remember Grandma making the Sunday dinners. When she'd have us all down there. I remember that house in Pottersville just like it was. And I remember the linoleum floors
Yeah.
and the dining room in the middle there, and I can remember Grandma and Granddad got their new refrigerator. They had that old Frigidaire.
Gasoline.
Yeah, or what was it?
Cola.
Yeah, or gas or something.
Kerosene.
Yeah.
Kerosene.
And they got their new refrigerator. Oh my, what a day that was.
Yeah.
And I remember Dolores was crying because she was going to miss the old refrigerator. And I remember how disgusted Grandma was, because she was so glad to be getting the new refrigerator, and Dolores was crying because she was going to miss the old one, But I remember Grandma, she was such a good cook. Fried chicken and fried chicken and fried chicken for all of us. And I remember one time that she made a banana cake. And it was a layer cake, and she'd slice bananas to put between them. Larry and I kept going in and sticking our fingers in and pulling out some bananas. Oh, and Grandma came in there and caught us, and she was so mad at us.
I can remember a certain cousin, no matter what you had on your plate, I can remember a certain cousin messing up your plate. He would either take something off of it.
Take your chicken bones or your chicken leg and put it in your tea.
Mashed potatoes or
And something.
That was Buddy, wasn't it?
No, I don't think it was.
I can remember Leon down there at Grandma's, Granddad's, and we would get against the porch there, that front porch. And Leon would run backwards and we would run forward as hard as we could go, and Leon would beat us.
Oh.
And I can remember how mad Dale used to get when he was playing. He would you remember that? He'd get mad if he had these little tractors and stuff. Can you remember that, Dale?
I thought that was a big sport.
And he had this regular little dirt pit, and he pushed his stuff, and he had it just like he wanted it. Well, if any of us sat down there to play with him, and we messed up his road or anything, he would get so mad at us.
I can remember getting mad at you for stomping an anthill one time. I told you not to do that. And before you left, you put him still on the hand. And then,
And you still mess them, don't you?
What I remember about Leon is he would always take me, as soon as we'd walk into Grandma's, he'd take me and throw me
Sure,
up
I can remember
to
that.
the ceiling, kids always really hung on to him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, he liked little
Leon seemed to be grown up to us, you know, and how
Yeah.
much older was Leon than
Then who,
what year was Leon born?
33,
33, so I was born in 41.
So he was quite a bit older.
8 years.